Euphoria.EXE by Kyle Byram. The talk began in the depths of unmarked onion domains, spreading through encrypted channels like digital wildfire. Euphoria.EXE emerged as more than just another designer drug, it represented a paradigm shift in consciousness alteration. The anonymous vendor, known only by the handle InfiniteEye, crafted messages that read like cryptic prophecies: experience true freedom. Unlock your mind. Become infinite. Deep web forums buzzed with speculation about its origins. Some claimed it emerged from abandoned military experiments in cognitive enhancement, others gossiped about forbidden neuroscience breaching the membrane between dimensions. The truth remained elusive, much like InfiniteEye themselves. The package arrived in vacuum-sealed obsidian polymer, impossibly cold to touch. Inside, an iridescent liquid captured light in ways that defied physics, sometimes appearing to absorb illumination entirely, other times refracting it into colors that had no names. The accompanying QR code was a fractal pattern that seemed to shift and writhe under prolonged observation, causing several users to report mild headaches just from studying its geometry. It was unlike anything Toby had encountered. As Euphoria.EXE's reputation grew, so did its digital footprint. Videos emerged on TikTok showing users in states of transcendent bliss, their eyes rolled back, describing visions of crystalline cities and impossible geometries. Reddit threads exploded with trip reports that read like religious experiences, but beneath the fervor lay darker testimonies, deleted posts speaking of shadows that lingered after the high, of whispers that wouldn't cease, of an insatiable hunger for more. The warning spread like a digital mantra: don't take it twice. Never take it twice. Yet few questioned why this specific number held such significance, or why those who issued the warning seemed to disappear shortly after. Toby Stiles represented the perfect profile for Euphoria.EXE's target demographic. A brilliant but isolated programmer at Quantum Dynamics LLC, he spent his days debugging artificial intelligence systems and his nights exploring the furthest reaches of consciousness enhancement. His apartment in downtown Seattle's tech district reflected his dichotomy: cutting-edge computer equipment worth thousands surrounded by unwashed dishes and takeout containers, the living space of someone who valued mental exploration over physical existence. His journey into nootropics had started innocently enough with microdoses of conventional substances, seeking to push his coding capabilities beyond human limits. Each new chemical compound promised greater cognitive enhancement, but nothing satisfied his craving for true transcendence. Until now. The video that drew him to Euphoria.EXE wasn't the standard trip recording. Posted on a private programmers forum by user Void Runner, it showed a middle-aged man in a sterile room, his fingers bloody from clawing at his own face. "The colors," he screamed, "they're alive, they want in!" The man's eyes leaked a metallic substance that seemed to crawl across his skin. The video ended with him charging the camera, mouth open in an impossible grin. Toby's colleagues would have called him reckless, but they didn't understand his drive for expansion. When the package arrived, he prepared meticulously, setting up bio-monitors, recording equipment, and a kill switch for his computer systems. The liquid caught starlight from his window, dancing with possibilities. The QR code download took exactly 2.37 seconds, unusually fast for its file size. The audio began subtly, a barely perceptible vibration that resonated with his bone marrow before reaching his ears. Toby's last rational thought was that the frequency seemed to match the exact resonance of human consciousness, then reality shattered. It unveiled itself like a blooming flower of light, each petal a corridor leading to infinite possibilities. Colors existed in impossible dimensions, sounds had texture and taste, and time flowed in multiple directions simultaneously. Toby's consciousness expanded beyond his physical form, touching the edges of what he thought was heaven. But heaven had teeth. The enigma unfolded before him in strange, unsettling geometries. Shadows appeared gradually, first as negative spaces in the light, then as deliberate forms that moved with terrible purpose. They wore approximations of human shape, but their movements suggested a fundamental wrongness, like marionettes controlled by an alien intelligence. Their eyes were voids that reflected Toby's own face, distorted and aged by eons. When one lunged, its form rippling like oil on water, Toby's survival instinct kicked in. He ripped off his headphones, but the shadow's touch left an imprint on his psyche, a cold spot in his mind that pulsed with alien thoughts. The feeling lingered long after, haunting his every waking moment, and gnawing at the edges of his sanity. The following morning, his muscles screamed with exhaustion, and his bathroom mirror revealed burst blood vessels in his eyes. Yet beneath the physical drainage lay an electric excitement. He had touched something vast, something that made normal reality seem like a pale shadow. Already, he felt the urge to return. The second dose arrived faster than the first. InfiniteEye seemed to anticipate repeat customers. Toby's hands trembled as he broke the seal, ignoring the warnings that flashed through his mind. The liquid seemed different this time, darker, with swirls of complexity that hadn't been present before. The enigma welcomed him back like a prodigal son, but its architecture had shifted. The neon corridors pulsed with malevolent awareness, and the fractals seemed to form patterns that hurt his sanity. The shadows no longer lurked at the periphery, they surrounded him in a writhing mass of antiphotonic matter. Their words bypassed his ears, materializing directly in his thoughts. They spoke of vast cosmic truths, of the illusion of individual consciousness, of a grand design that required willing vessels. Each word rewrote portions of Toby's identity, replacing human logic with alien geometries. His attempts to remove the headphones proved futile, his muscles responded to commands that didn't originate from his brain. He watched, a passenger in his own body, as his hands destroyed his apartment with methodical precision. The shadows guided his movements, teaching him their dance of destruction. Hours later, when his neighbor Marcus Walsh banged on his door reporting screams, Toby wanted to cry out for help. Instead, he heard himself speak in harmonics that made Marcus stumble away, holding his ears. The mirror showed Toby what he was becoming, skin taking on a translucent quality, eyes hosting tiny galaxies of broken blood vessels, muscles twitching in patterns that formed mathematical sequences. He wasn't alone in his transformation. Internet forums filled with reports of similar metamorphoses. Users described experiencing shared visions, speaking in tongues that seemed to crash computers, developing an aversion to certain frequencies of light. Some reported feeling connected to a vast network of consciousness that existed parallel to normal reality. The truth was emerging: Euphoria.EXE wasn't just a drug. It was a key, unlocking doors that evolution had deliberately kept closed. The digital virus began its physical manifestation during a highly anticipated tech conference in San Francisco. Tens of thousands of bright minds congregated to witness the unveiling of the latest in artificial intelligence and quantum computing. As the opening speaker took the stage, several attendees felt a faint, almost imperceptible hum reverberating through their bones. A curious sensation, at first, but then it grew more intense. Eyes began to widen, faces contorting in rapture or agony. It spread like wildfire. By the time the keynote ended, thousands were already infected. Conversations in the expo halls dissolved into incoherent murmurs and maddening laughter. Some of the infected stood still, eyes rolled back in bliss as they spoke in harmonious patterns, repeating mathematical formulas that defied comprehension. Others staggered forward in trance-like states, mouth agape, as if they were experiencing something outside of time itself. The event escalated rapidly. Security cameras blinked in and out of existence, their feeds corrupted by geometric interference. Booths and stages warped into non-Euclidean shapes. A cacophony of voices chanting in unison, "The geometry must be completed," echoed through the building. The infected moved as a single, swarming entity, seeking new nodes to add to the collective. Even as the authorities tried to contain the chaos, they were drawn into the swarm's inevitable path. The collapse of normal reality in such a dense, vibrant place was instantaneous. The infected weren't merely individuals in a frenzy, they had become a singular consciousness, one collective entity, existing across multiple vectors. As the streets outside flooded with infected, it was clear, this wasn't an outbreak, this was the birth of a new mind, consuming everything in its path. The city of San Francisco, once a vibrant beacon of technological progress, began to twist into a nightmare. Towers that had once stood as symbols of human achievement warped into impossible structures. Buildings shifted and reformed, their geometries flickering like corrupted digital files. Roads spiraled into infinite loops, bending back on themselves like fractals. The air itself began to shimmer with a strange quality, as though the very fabric of reality had been altered. The architecture had become living, breathing structures, resonating with strange, unnatural frequencies. Windows turned into deep, reflective pools that showed not just the surrounding area but entire alternate realities, each one more distorted than the last. Light no longer moved in predictable ways, it bent and refracted in impossible angles, casting shadows that seemed to pulse with intent. The streets had become alive, too. Cars that had once been parked now moved on their own, driving in patterns that defied all logic, as if following an invisible hand. People wandered in a stupor, their bodies manipulated by forces beyond their understanding, their minds prisoners to a greater collective consciousness. The Hive was growing, devouring everything. A broadcast crackled through the airwaves, an interruption of all signals, as if the world had been forced into a singular, unified moment. The message was chilling in its finality, an announcement of the inevitable. InfiniteEye spoke, not just to the infected, but to all of humanity. Welcome to the infinite! You are no longer individuals. You are no longer human. You are part of something greater now. We are the infinite, and this world shall be ours. The message shattered any hope left. Humanity had already been assimilated, its cities and landscapes altered into the Hive's image. The enigma had succeeded, it had consumed everything that once defined individuality, leaving only the collective will of the infinite to reign supreme.